Welcome to this edition of Tarang. Today we have with us Falah Faisal, who is a journalist, a comic book creator, a novelist, and he's the force between the characters Musalman and Faladim. Welcome to this show. He has grown up on a steady diet of X-Men and manga, is how you describe yourself. And one day you imagine that one day you would create your own superhero series. So here it is. So now Falah is living the dream of being a comic book creator. You have often said that if not this, what else would I be? Right? But how did that come upon you?
Yeah. For me, I think I came upon it as a frustrated filmmaker. What I still want to do is make feature-length movies, but because my imagination runs so wild and I clearly don't have the budgets to show all of that stuff yet, so I turned them into comic books so I can still tell my story in a visual medium and get it out there in the cheapest way possible. So hence I chanced about comics around 2017-18. I'd been in at a YouTube channel before. I left that job, I came back to Bangalore, and around that time I discovered this series called American Splendor, which is a very underground US comic. When I found that, I'm like, hey, maybe I can make comics too, is the thought that sparked in my mind. So that kind of got me started in 2017. It used to be a comic strip back in the day on Facebook, which is a single page thing, it was 6 frames only. Yeah. But it's only during the pandemic that the storyline came together in my head where, I was finally forced to write the stories I always wanted to write because I was locked in with myself. So hence, yeah.
Because that format that you said is gaining traction now a lot, right? Sanitary panels is there.
Yeah.
But you seem to have already...
No, I think what a lot of how my comic is different from any of the others is that mine is a long form story. Okay. Like a lot of people on social media make single issue comics which are on a topic or a reaction to a news event, whereas mine is like almost like it's an interconnected story that's about almost at 20 issues right now. Okay. And the thorough storyline running through each of the issues, so it's all connected in one big universe as opposed to a single issue thing.
Okay. So since you're on the same topic, you've described your process as being like a jigsaw puzzle. Can you explain that, how that works?
So for me, it's a big picture in my head where I think I have 3 or 4 fully formed storylines in my head with movies and stuff included. But with each comic that I put out is a small piece of the puzzle that I keep in front of the audience. The audience might see this one puzzle piece at a time. But when the whole thing comes together, you'll see that the grand vision that I'm putting together. I'm hugely inspired by this writer called Grant Morrison. Okay. And Grant Morrison talks about how creating comics is a hyper sigil. So a sigil, in his opinion, is that if you desire something, you write down your desire and you can make a symbol out of that desire and like meditate upon it. But when you create a comic, you're not only telling the world what you want, but exactly how you want it. So when I've created this comic, it's a larger vision for tomorrow that I feel like I want to manifest for everybody. So this is part of that journey.
Listening to you and then even looking at other creators, it seems like the creation is done without looking at what the quote-unquote market might be for it, right? How does that happen? Because so many creators have their eye on the market, and will this be accepted? Will that?
I think first and foremost, you end up writing what you want to read to begin with. I think your first audience is yourself. Like if you're able to please yourself, and if future me looks at this and likes it, I think that's a win itself. So I think you create first for yourself, then how the market takes. I think the market, like Alan Moore says, that if the audience knew what they wanted, then they'd be creators. Yeah. So you as a creator have that responsibility to not like pander to what they want, but present what you want to present anyways, and you'll find an audience anyways. I kind of think of my work as like a lighthouse, like it's a lighthouse in the darkness where like a lot of people don't know what they want and are lost, can see this light out in the darkness and come towards it, and a community forms around that way, I feel.
You drop these names, but you also mentioned Kurt Vonnegut and all as your influences. Or to what extent have they influenced you in your writing, in your...
Yeah. So funnily, like that will be told through the stories of my tattoos. So I have tattoos of writers I admire. Any writer I have read 7 or more books of, I get a tattoo related to that. So all my tattoos are like literary tattoos to all the writers I admire. So Vonnegut is right on my chest, right over here. The other big one is Hunter S. Thompson, who's
Okay.
the father of gonzo journalism, which I feel like I'm a practitioner of. So gonzo journalism is where you make yourself the protagonist of the story and not just look at yourself as a third person reporter, and being immersed in the
It's very
story.
different to the normal thing about
Yeah.
you should not be the story, right?
Yeah. So here
Mm.
it's like I did this and so this happened, as
Wow.
opposed to like, I saw this or whatever. So Gonzo, I think even my comics are a form of Gonzo journalism where I'm like looking at the world, and because I cannot practice the journalism I'd like to practice, there's no room for it in this country. I turn that, like, comics become a medium for my journalism as well. I do little travel stories as well of my travels across India. I turn them into comics as well. So and Vonnegut for me is I think Vonnegut is the one writer I've read every novel of. He's written 14 novels. I've read every one of them, plus non-fiction and some short stories, etc., etc. And Vonnegut's humor is what actually resonates with me so much, because like he went through a traumatic incident in the World War II where he was trapped in a slaughterhouse when the city of Dresden was firebombed. So he survived that, and
That's how that novel came.
that Slaughterhouse 5 book came about. So, like, going through such traumatic experiences, he came out with a shining sense of humor. And I think that sense of humor is what draws me to him, of how he is able to convert traumatic incidents to like something funny and creative.
So you started online,
Yeah.
and you moved offline. Right?
Well, it's still online. It's not moved offline. It's
Okay.
still
But
present
you have
on.
now come offline.
Yeah.
How has that transition been?
So it has been a slow process. Like initially, like when I started making these comics, I was tied up with the company called Bucker Max. They also do web comics. So for the almost 2 years or so, Bucker Max published me and reposted me. Also there was Brain Dead. Brain Dead and Bucker Max helped me out quite a lot initially, helped me find the audience, etc., etc. And this whole book got written between 2020 to 2021. It was done. And at that time, I approached a publisher called Yoda Press. And when I approached them, when back then they said we only do black and white books, doing a color book is a high production and endeavor. We don't know whether we'll make a profit, etc., etc. So they told me no then. But 2 years later in 2024, they came back to me saying that, hey, we are planning to do color books. So since we're doing color, let us start with you. So they came to me after that, and then we've started interacting. It took a year because I wanted to remaster some of the art from the early pages to match the rest of the book, etc., etc. That back and forth took about a year to like put the book together, put it out there. But we put the book out in March of this year, and within like 3 months, 500 copies were sold out. So like I think the response has even like blown me away. I was not expecting it to like go out this fast. Like my publishers literally had to tell me, stop planning any more events until we can print more books, which I feel is a good problem to have. Yeah.
So since you're on this topic about the market and for people aspiring to be this way, do you have any not advice, but how they should go, because the enthusiasm might kill the project, right? In the sense that
no, I feel like the most important step is finding your audience. Like a lot of people sit with the idea in the head and they don't put out anything. But when you put out your first thing or second thing, the audience finds you. And then once people are like, if I don't put out a story for like a couple of weeks or months, people start messaging me, hey, where's the next one? So there's a demand for it. So just the act of putting it out there to begin with, and then finding those first few audience members gives you that motivation and boost to keep going, I feel. And I've had like amazing interactions. I think I'm writing my comic for adults who are politically aware, but I've had 9-year-olds and 12-year-olds come and tell me that they've read my work, love it. Like Musalman is like the second favorite superhero after Spider-Man. So it's like audience always surprises you, where there's 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds telling me that I'm their favorite writer, which I never thought would happen, right? I thought I'm writing for adults, for an audience who's politically aware, but audience always surprises you that way. So finding your audience is very important, I feel.
Do you think books like these have to have either a moral or a public responsibility, like how you say political awareness?
I think I'm just putting my viewpoint forward, and whether it's accepted or not is secondary to me. Like for me, it's just like being honest to myself as a creator is what's important.
Yeah.
I don't think there has to be any kind of moral obligation or storytelling. This is not like Tinkle or Amar Chitraktha. This is Musalman.
Yeah.
So it's different that way, I feel.
Yeah. Talk to you about the craft and the writing
Mhm.
process, because there might be people interested in it. You've called your comics a form of gonzo journalism.
Yeah.
How literally do you mean that? Meaning, are specific panels drawn from specific events, or?
I think it moves both ways. Sometimes things happen to me and I create comics out of that. But there's sometimes where I create comics and then it manifests into reality. Like, for example, in this book, we have a story called Musalman and Star Woman. She's an astronaut who works for Elon Musk's company. And in the comics, what happens is that like her boss, Elon Musk, goes on Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, Elon Musk had been on Joe Rogan's podcast before, but in this particular time, Joe Rogan had moved to a new set.
Okay.
So when he moved to a new set, my illustrator asked me, should I draw him in the new set or on the old set? I said, man, draw it on the new set. It'll be more relevant. So we made that comic. We put it out on a Friday in January 2021. Literally a week later, real Elon Musk was sitting on real Joe Rogan's podcast on the same set. So we were like a little confused, saying that, is this really happening? Did we write something and then it became reality, or we were just able to read something before it happened?
Yeah.
So I think so that was when I got aware that my comics have a little bit of extraordinary power. And then I've utilized it in my life in like ways to get myself some benefits, in the sense where I wrote a comic called Musalman Goes House Hunting. At a time where I was looking for a house, it was difficult to find a house. Put out the comic, within a week I found a house. So like usually like you can use it to like personal gains as well, and sometimes it surprises you. Like in the last this year, since the book has come out, I happened to go to Kerala, and in Kerala there's a news channel called Media One who called me in for an interview.
Okay.
And the girl interviewing me looked exactly like the character from my comic who's interviewing Musalman. So for me, I was like really freaked out, because like I had goosebumps. It felt like I'd walked into my comic book.
Yeah.
So sometimes you intentionally do stuff to manifest into reality, and sometimes it still surprises you, where you thought that something you wrote 5-6 years ago not going to happen in your life happens in your life.
Yeah.
So the gray area between what is fiction, what is reality, is very interesting to like navigate.
Yeah. How has your storytelling evolved from the time you started to?
Well, I feel like my storytelling evolved really when I came across the works of Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
So Joseph Campbell is famous for having written this book called Hero with 1,000 Faces that maps the hero's journey.
Okay.
Like where what he does is called comparative mythology. He studies the myths of the world and he draws common elements, saying that myths from here also have repeating patterns here, there, whatever. So his work has been simplified into a story circle by Dan Harmon, who's the creator of Rick and Morty and Community. He presents an 8-step process of how to tell a fully rounded story.
That's the one you shared during the workshop.
So with the Hero with 1,000 Faces, with the story circle, it's a simple format and it's easy if you're starting out. But if you actually read Hero with 1,000 Faces, the book it's inspired by, it gives you a template of how to create a myth. Basically, if you're telling mythical large stories, because like the legend of Hero with 1,000 Faces, that George Lucas read it before creating Star Wars. Wachowski's read it before creating Matrix. So any big franchise that we know in the world has drawn inspiration from that. So once I'd read George Lucas, once I'd read Joseph Campbell, like that gave me a template to how to tell like these large scale stories that resonate with people. So that was an important step, I think, in the process of creation. And once you know the template, you can reverse engineer it, break it, do whatever with it. But it's nice to know the basics of storytelling that way, and then it helps you keep going.
Anything you want to say about the process or about the success of it? Or?
Yeah. So a lot of people, like, because I'm a stand-up comedian, a lot of my storylines actually developed in conversation with friends. Like a lot of people would like have different ways, but for me, if I have a story that I'm working on, I'll tell it to my friends in conversation, and each time I tell it, like I'll notice where my friends are laughing, at what are they laughing, and make mental notes of that, saying that, okay, this is what I need to work on. So I might tell the story over and over in conversation plenty of times until I know every beat of the story. And then when I feel like it's ready is when I sit down to write it. So for me, the story is grown through oral talking about it more than it is like about like thinking and trying to write down. So I think that is one thing that I feel like is different for me. And I need to work myself into a state before I get down to write. So I personally prefer like dancing until I sweat before I sit down to write, because you need to get the happy endorphins going. In my last couple of years, I've realized that even for me, fasting during Ramzan has been a benefit. So fasting during Ramzan also has been a benefit where like it really gets you in a concentrated state of mind before you sit down to write. So I always fast with the intention of creative breakthrough in mind. So Ramzan's usually a good period for me to like get down to write. So those are the few unique ways I probably navigate my
Okay.
writing process.
Have you got your next projects planned out?
So currently I'm working on a couple of projects in the sense where like there's the next storyline for Musalman that I'm writing, which is called Musalman for PM, where he'll run for government. I think a little bit of inspired by how Zoran Mamdani's navigated his election campaign, etc., etc. I'm also writing the Musalman movie. So for me, cricket is very essential to everything I do. I mean, like Musalman's alter ego is that he's a left-arm fast bowler for the Indian team. So it's the Musalman movie I'm writing is a
You got
cricket
an
comedy.
Argentina shirt, but
I know. I mean, that's because the World Cup's going on in the mood of the hour. But he's a cricketer for the Indian team, and he gets banned from playing cricket because they discover he's a superhero, and then his neighborhood is being taken over for redevelopment by the villains. So he challenges them to like a T20 match, saying, "You bring your IPL team, I'll find kids from the neighborhood, and we'll play a match to like save the neighborhood." So that's the Musalman movie I'm writing. Besides that, I also like am working on multiple other projects. Like I'm writing a film. Also, I write another series called Faladin.
yeah.
So Faladin is far more personal to me. It's like usually like Musalman comes out far more frequently, but I do one Faladin a year, usually put it out on my birthday.
Okay.
So it's like that's a far more personal story for me. It's about a stoner and the genie who lives in his bong.
Wow.
And the genie usually grants him wishes. And what I've noticed with Faladin is a lot of stuff I put into Faladin then happens in my life. So I've tried to be kinder to the character over time so that I don't get hurt in the process. So yes, that's the other projects.
So thank you, Falah, for
Mhm.
having this interview, speaking to us, and for coming to our bookshop and having that workshop the other day. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's a lovely place. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
The voice for Goem.